to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to The Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
All right, you are in for a second segment, a special segment of the Changing Stage radio show powered by the mighty WS Radio Networks, brought to you by SIR Music Equipment Rental, Pitbull Audio at pitbullaudio.com, and Stars Align, where they are teaching the kids of tomorrow about the music of today. And as always, we always have the great guest, and we've got a return guest here today, a man who has been highly prolific in the music business and in audio in general, but hasn't necessarily been the musician. He's been the guy who's built the sound for these folks, and this is Mr. John Storyk. Are you there, John?
I'm here. How are you?
I'm doing great, sir. And you, like I said, are highly instrumental in creating the tones and the sounds of the music business, because you've built, like we talked about on the last show, you've built studios. Well, you started off with a guy, I don't know if anybody knows who this is, Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, you built his Electric Ladyland studio, and worked with Eddie Kramer to do that, and you've worked with icons like Bob Marley, Bruce Springsteen, recent ones like Al City or Jay-Z and Beyonce. So your list of artists is a huge. And then we also talked that you're not just about music studios, but you do acoustical design across the board. Everything from the Lincoln Center, the jazz room over there, to radio stations. Hopefully we'll get you to come over here someday and take a look at our humble one and see what you think about that. And then, of course, big things like the Olympic area that's going to be coming up for Brazil. So you've got them all over. Tell us, since the last time we talked, what's been going on? You personally are doing a lot of lecturing.
Well, we remain busy. I guess we're better busy than non-busy. That's for sure. Yeah. Since I did speak to you, it's the teaching season. I myself, personally, my wife and partner Beth and I, we live in Mexico in the winter, so that kind of takes us away from our New York office and physically leaves me pretty much the month of April to do most of my teaching, since I have to kind of follow the academic schedule. So April was pretty full of teaching. I teach a course at University of Colorado. I teach a course at Berkeley in Boston. It's and those are my two favorite schools where I teach and do some guest lecturing. So, yeah, teaching was pretty busy. That's over now. Summer is here in the Northeast. Baseball has started. So, but we remain pretty busy. We're very, very fortunate. You are right. We're in a lot of different fields. But what I want to suggest, and I think what we should talk about, and I think that's what you want to talk about, is, much to everybody's surprise, we seem to have more recording studios being built than ever before. Everybody seems to think recording studios are dying, or they're closing, or it's a thing of the past, but actually it seems to be furthest from the truth. It's an interesting oxymoron, and I think that's something, I know you and I have spoken about it offline. I think it's something that you're interested in. Maybe some of the people who are listening are interested in it. Yeah,
and I highly agree, because I think with the ability for artists to release themselves, there's no the need to go to a central location isn't as much of a need anymore. They can go and build their, especially these high profile artists, they can build their own studios in their homes and work on the projects 24/7. They don't have to worry about whether or not Ocean Way or something like that's going to open up available to them. Although those studios are still doing pretty good, from what I understand.
Well, what happened? I mean, an interesting thing happened. What really took place over the last 10 and 15 years was not the death of recording. Okay, but it was the change, and in some instances, the death of a certain kind of business and distribution model. That's really what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Music didn't stop. Population grew. People listening to more music than ever. I'm not interested in commenting on whether I like the music of today or not. I love music. I love all kinds of music. If people are playing music, they're usually not shooting each other. Usually,
Yeah.
and not always, but usually. And
at least we hope.
If you hear it, it was recorded somewhere, somehow. It just doesn't magically record itself, music.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and whether we're hearing it on earbuds and we don't think that's right, and we want to argue on distribution techniques, or is vinyl returning, these are all extraordinarily interesting subjects, okay? But the headline for all these subjects is that music and content, doesn't necessarily mean music, are being recorded, which means they're recorded somewhere.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is that the ability to have a recording studio actually got easier over the last 15 years. What changed was one particular business model, which was one associated with what I want to call the kind of age of excess of recording studios. Very expensive studios driven by very expensive equipment, some of it extraordinary, some of it unnecessary, with huge record production budgets, which of course obviously were unnecessary.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and we learned a lot. That model died, the limousine model. Build a studio, rent it for a lot of money by the hour, et cetera, et cetera. Call those the larger studios. Many of those studios self-proclaimed themselves to be world-class. These are marketing terms, okay? We still have those kinds of studios. We're still always going to have need for these sort of mothership studios, and they have different reasons for existing. Sometimes they're studios that just simply have large rooms because the real estate is, in fact, hard for most people to deal with. It's expensive to build, and it's expensive to maintain. And so those studios that do remain, particularly in the centers, in the urban centers, and destination studios, they're doing well. If you go to L.A., you go to New York, Nashville, London, okay, the remaining studios are all busy. I mean, New York, of course, is my home, so you go and you walk into Jungle or Electric Lady, and you can't book those studios. They're full.
Yeah,
They're full all the time because a lot of studios closed. Exactly. They're iconic studios, and they're doing well, and they serve a function, okay? But on the other hand, there's 1,000 smaller studios in Brooklyn and surrounding environs that are also doing well. And all of them can live in the same world at the same time at a variety of scales and a variety of equipment scales, a variety of installation scales, and with a wide variety of business models. But all of them, on some level, need acoustic accuracy.
Yes.
This is kind of giving us a kind of job security and basically allowing us to remain very, very busy. And it's a very exciting time right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're saying is very poignant for what the market is today, because having access to this less expensive technology, but still as impactful and as powerful as some of the stuff that was quite a bit more expensive, provides for the design and proliferation of all these different studios. Now, your way of designing studios is more than just about the architecture. It's about incorporating the audio components or any of the gear that you would. How are you seeing some of this impacting some of the less expensive stuff, impacting what you're doing with acoustical design?
Well, it's a big subject. I got to be very careful because I know at 12 minutes we stop. Exactly.
Yeah, we got about 2.5 minutes right now.
Yeah, I know. I got a clock in front of me. I'm very familiar now with this new radio. In my next life, I'll come back as a radio organizer, radio producer. That's the word I was looking for. Okay, so I actually have a clock this time so that I can. So I'm going to dribble along here, but hold the real answer until the second segment so I can get a nice full situation going. But the headline on this is scalability, and that doesn't scare me. I mean, I can't tell you how many people they'll see us at trade shows or whatnot, and they just sort of approach us assuming that there's this kind of gloominess in our life because we don't have any work, and just the opposite. Having said that, not every project needs what we do. The headline of our philosophy is very simple. We just don't make any distinction between equipment design, systems design, acoustics, architecture, interior design. We don't really make a distinction between those two. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that if some people do, it's okay. It just means we don't as a company. We meaning our company and our group. We have about 40 professionals that are working on this. We see it as all one process. We are not right for every studio. Some people just need to get systems installed. Some people just need some surface treatment because maybe their room is too reverberant, and they're okay on their systems. In some instances, the systems are so simple it's really a non-event. Some rooms are so small that they just need to be really dry and non-reverberant. Okay? Depends also on what is being recorded in a room. Studios record lots of different kinds of content. But in general, we don't really make a distinction between all those different moments in design, and I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. I would say that that's sort of an underlying philosophy of how we approach every project.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I come from a background of project studios, and then you take that project into a larger studio. So I could definitely appreciate all the things that you're talking about. We're going to be going to a commercial segment right now. I just wanted to give a shout out to our sponsors, Pitbull Audio at pitbullaudio.com. You guys are doing a great job providing the gear that powering the studios here in the Southland, actually around the world, because they are an international company. And of course, we've got SIR Music Equipment Rental, where they're actually powering the live set for any kind of gear, and they started off in studios providing gear for studios that John built, and then of course Stars Align, who are educating the next generation of musicians. So thanks. We'll be right back here in a few short minutes, and we're going to be talking deeper into studio design with the legendary John Storyk.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goley, one thing that you've helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get to the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians, because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
In the military, things can change in an instant. At Navy Mutual Aid Association, we understand because it's our life too. That's why our dedication to serving the life insurance needs of our military veterans and their families is unrivaled. Navy Mutual offers superior life insurance protection without military service restrictions and limitations. A single focus on providing the peace of mind military families are looking for. That's what we do. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve. Call 800-628-6011 or go to NavyMutual.org.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on VinVillage Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect. Hi, this is Rob Barnett, VinVillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to The Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
We're back with the second segment of the Changing Stage radio show. This is a great day because we've had some great special shows today. And we are here with Mr. John Storyk talking about studio design and the studio design industry. And we were just recently talking with you, John, and you were going to expand upon this, your thoughts on the price differences now with equipment, and quite often it being actually just software, and how that impacts studio design and acoustical architecture.
Right. Well, thanks. Good to be back. Basically what's happened, and no, you don't need me to tell you this, is equipment has more or less across the board just simply got smaller and more affordable.
Yeah.
Equipment used to be a mystery. I mean, if you go back to really sort of the beginning ages of recording studios, and it really happens after World War II, seems like a long time ago, but it's really not that long, okay? There really was no equipment industry at all. Equipment was a loose association of manufacturers really not talking to each other. You custom built your own console. Imagine that as an era. Yeah. Now we buy consoles like you buy toasters. Okay, they break, you just simply throw them away, you buy another one. I mean, you can. Obviously, we don't buy $100,000 consoles like that, but there are $3,000 consoles that are doing 98% of what a $100,000 console does. It's extraordinary. We have studios without consoles. We have many studios without consoles. In fact, It's one of the first questions we'll ask somebody. Do we even need a console? Maybe we just need a router of some sort. So the whole nature of how recording takes place has really changed. But the bottom line is that the equipment budgets have just simply tumbled. Now, not everybody's happy about that. Certainly, people who make equipment, that's caused a stress for them, and they've had to redirect some of their energies. And I appreciate that. And remember, the industry, the studio building and studio operating industry historically was an industry driven by equipment manufacturers. Just pick up any magazine in our industry and look at the ads.
Yeah, exactly.
Mostly equipment. That's changing. Okay? It's not driven by equipment anymore. It's now driven, I believe, by a combination of equipment manufacturers and people thinking about a much more holistic approach to recording. People like ourselves, people who make acoustic treatments. For instance, the notion of even an acoustics treatments industry didn't exist 20 years ago. Now we have dozens and dozens of companies, think about this for a second, making really high-quality prefabricated acoustic treatments. That very fact alone should give you a clue. The very fact that even exists gives you a clue that there's a need for it. People don't make things if there's not a need for them, generally, or they don't make them in a sustained manner. So that's very exciting times. Now, in the middle of all that, we have the web, which can be confusing because anybody can put anything on it.
Yeah.
And so you can
everybody does,
basically,
good or bad.
And everybody does. So we have a lot of snakeskin selling stuff, and a lot of, we got a lot of garbage. But you also have a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Even in relatively boring, uninteresting fields. Let's just take one, for instance, sound isolation, acoustic doors. This is not exactly a romantic field to be discussing, but generally speaking, we need them. Studios are quiet. They need to be quiet. They don't. And so, the very fact that there's a dozen people making quality acoustical doors, what does that tell you? It means we're going to have competition. It means prices are going to go down. okay, means that each year somebody's just trying to figure out how to do a better job, thinner, lighter, less expensive, and that kind of trickle-down philosophy has really been a good thing for us. We don't sell equipment. We don't sell products. We've kind of made a point of never doing it. We actually don't even endorse anything, not publicly anyway.
Yeah.
Keeping our options always open. It's just been exciting but yet all the manufacturers, everybody will share their information with us pretty quickly when they have something because they want to see if we like it, and they're hoping that we'll use it in studios. So bottom line is, Fontina, these are very exciting times for people who want to build studios.
Yeah, and I think that's important. In fact, we've had our challenges with noise because we do a live show and we also do recording and production here at the radio station. How does someone approach? This is kind of a simple thing for the home person as well as obviously the big company. How does someone approach keeping sound going out as well as keeping sound coming into a recording environment?
Well, it's a good question. It's a very fundamental question, and I'll answer it by giving you an answer to a slightly different question, but it gets to the point.
Okay.
When you start thinking about acoustics, it's very important right from the very beginning to be very clear whether you are talking about isolation acoustics or whether you are talking about internal room acoustics. And a lot of people get those two issues confused. Okay? Are we, in fact, talking about trying to keep the siren from disturbing the room or the loud Marshall amp in my recording room from bothering my neighbor? Okay? Or are we trying to get the amp to sound good in the room? Okay? These are two very, very different, distinct issues. They use the same acoustic principles, but they get solved with a very different set of paradigm. In the case of your question, and I will assume that your question referred to column A, which is isolation acoustics.
Yes.
How do I stop my noise from bothering a neighbor, or how do I stop my neighbor from bothering me?
Exactly.
Good programming and good measurements. Okay, number one, you've got to know exactly how quiet you want your room to be. And by the way, the answer to that is, I want it to be completely quiet. That's not an answer. That's something you might tell your mom, but that's not good enough. We need numbers. We need science. How quiet should my room be? And not all rooms need to be equally as quiet. Rooms with live microphones have one set of standards. Control rooms have another set of standards. They don't have to be quite as quiet as other rooms. If you're only recording vocals, okay, which, for instance, might be the case in a radio station, something you're familiar with, maybe we don't have to be so concerned with 40 hertz. Not a lot of 40 hertz in the vocals. In fact, there's no 40 hertz in vocals, really.
Yeah.
Maybe we can cut that out electronically. So understanding the programming issue of how quiet you need to be is extremely important, okay? Understanding that sound is logarithmic. By that I mean it's decibelic in nature, which means that every 3 dB is expensive, is also very important. And then, of course, the second piece of information we need is what's the level of the disturbing noise? Make good measurements. Then a little bit of science gets you your boundary and your isolation design. And, of course, God is in the details. It's not terribly difficult to select correct boundaries. That information is relatively available. It's not rocket science. It's science, but it's not rocket science. But God is in the details because, in fact, the trick is not selecting the right boundaries. The trick is dealing with penetrations. And most times, most sound isolation problems come from poor connections and poor penetrations. So if you have an existing room and you're trying to make it quieter, tackle the holes, tackle the openings. Chain is as strong as the weakest link is basically the headline on that. Okay? Yes, adding another layer of sheetrock will, of course, make your boundary improve its isolation, but putting some backing behind your outlets or putting some seals around your door, okay, or identifying that one window that's not closing correctly might do exactly the same thing. Okay, so correct understanding of how quiet you need your room to be, correct understanding of how much noise the offensive environment is, and then identifying holes and penetrations. Those are the keys. sounds a little. It sounds simple. The headlines are simple.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, God is in the detail, and God is in the art of doing it.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Now, with that, and we got about a minute and a half before the next segment. How important are the materials? Are these things that you would be able to find in, like if you're going to do a project studio, would you be able to find them in a Home Depot, or would you need to really kind of go seek out, specialized materials?
Well, yes to both, no to both. Okay, and I give you the 45-second answer. Then we go for the break. I'm getting kind of used to this now. Okay, and then we're going to swing back. Maybe we'll swing back for segment 3 is materials.
Yeah.
Okay, and we can do 12 minutes on that. But the headline on this is all materials are acoustic. This concept of specialized acoustic materials is really a little bit of a myth. Might be strange to hear that from somebody like myself, but let me be the first to demystify it. 95% of the materials in most studios are actually purchasable at Home Depot or at a normal construction vendor. So most acoustic installations use normal materials in special acoustical ways. Okay? And you would be surprised how many materials you can obtain. I'm assuming you're talking about a DIY type of installation. We'll come back and talk to that. That you can actually get locally and easily. Having said that, there are some specialized materials. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we swing back. But the bottom line is all materials are acoustic. It's just how we use them.
Awesome. We have been talking with Mr. John Storyk, the master of acoustical architecture, and he's been illuminating and enlightening us on all the great things to do to create your own studio as well as big studios. We are powered by the mighty WS Radio Networks. Thanks, SIR, pitbullaudio.com, Stars Align. Stay tuned because the next segment is just going to be even deeper into how to make your studio sound great.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
You've heard me bragging about Progressive Medical Center and how they've helped me feel so much healthier. But one thing, Dr. Agoli, that a lot of people come to you with is just unexplained pain. They just can't get any relief. Why can Progressive Medical Center's Pain Management Center help them?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that pain is for real, and you've got acute pain and chronic pain. Here's the problem. That acute pain turns to chronic, which is long-standing, and no one's getting to the root cause. There's several key diagnostic components that help us get to the root of what's causing this pain. Is it inflammation? Once we do a thorough evaluation to get to the root cause, determine if it's structural or if it's a metabolic issue. And this way, we put an individualized program for pain management involving correcting the spine, using certain injections when necessary, and we get our patients out of pain quicker, and they stay out of pain because we teach them how to live their life well.
Don't let yourself live in pain any longer. Get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today at progressivemedicalcenter.com.
Progressive Medical, this is your life, live it well.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. so we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to The Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
We are into our special broadcast here for the Changing Stage radio show in sunny San Diego, California, brought to you by SAR Equipment Rental as well as Pitbull Audio at pitbullaudio.com, where they just want you to play it loud, and you could always have it acoustically treated by WSDG and John at his with his team, as well as Stars Aligned, who are making it just really available for the youth of today. You know, maybe they might do a studio design class. Who knows when you know, with what they're doing. John,
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think that would be great. You know, because you know, I think what you were saying too about as many studios are popping up, I think we're starting to get a lot more kids interested in music, because it's you know, even though the schools aren't supporting it in the public fashion, there are a lot of organizations like Stars Aligned that are popping up saying, hey, you know, we need to do this. Larry White, who was a writer for Motown, put this school together with his wife Margaret, and they're doing great things. And same thing with what we're talking about here. We're talking about how to, you know, all the principles of studio design, kind of the start of things. And you've done them from the, you know, the from small project studios that, you know, are very well treated to, obviously, like I said, you're working on the Olympic Village in Brazil. So with all the offices that you have around the world. So, you know,
well, we have a wide range of projects. We don't want to confuse two things. I mean, one is a general discussion on studios, which is what I want to stay focused on, because I think that's interesting. This is a radio show, and by definition, it's an educational show. I believe in education. But, you know, you don't want to confuse that with what our firm takes on as projects. I mean, we're not a charity. We're a business. We support 40 people. We're proud of that. But that does not mean we don't define projects by their size. We have small projects, we have large projects. For us, we have a kind of a set of criteria as to when we want to take a project, and we look at every project as a kind of a marriage. I mean, there's no project that's less than 6 months, and some projects go on for years. So basically, we're about to get married to someone, and we just want to make sure that it's correct. One of the points we look for is to see if it's financially sensible. Mm-hmm. That does not necessarily only mean, you know, are we going to get fees that make sense for us? But, you know, can they afford to do the dream that they want? Because if they can't, that's going to be a nightmare. We don't need that anymore. We don't need the practice. Are we going to learn something from the project? Is the project, are people nice? A lot of times I'll be talking to a client, I'll just say, are you nice? Are you a nice person? And they think I'm crazy. And I say, why would you be asking that question? I'd say, well, I'm about to get married to you for a year. I just want to know if you're nice. Are we going to laugh? Are we going to have fun? It's about music. Are we going to enjoy ourselves?
Yeah.
And those are you know, I don't mean to drift. Actually, I guess I do mean to drift, but, you know, it's supposed to be fun. Let's circle back, though.
And I think all of that.
Yeah,
I was going to say that's all relevant with building a studio and how the design works, because
it's supposed to be fun.
The human element of it all is as important, or in some ways more important than the technical element. And with that said, we were talking about studio design. We're talking about materials, some of the things that you might find at a Home Depot. But then we were also talking about there might be some things that they would look at that would be important, like maybe some type of sound treatment, like, you know, or you know, like the sound foams. There are different companies that make that. Or
well, for instance, and I want to circle back on that. Might be a good fourth segment subject, which is this concept of the project studio. So I want to remind you to let's make that our fourth segment, because I have some very real thoughts about that. I've been thinking about project studios my entire life. So, but let's drill into the materials, okay? So let's take something like a membrane absorber. Let's drill into a little more detail, because we're in the beginning of our 12 minutes, okay? And let's just say that somebody in a project studio or a budget studio or a home studio or a commercial studio, notice that I'm kind of ridiculing these terms a little bit, because these are just marketing terms. These are not acoustic terms. These are not science terms. Science does not care whether you're sending an invoice for your studio time. You either have a low-frequency response problem or you don't. You understand where I'm going? You know, the low frequency either is troubling or it's not. You either have a modal response problem or you don't, commonly called a standing wave problem. But I don't want to, this is not an acoustics class, so we're not going to drill in. But let's just say you were smart enough to figure out that you have this problem. Actually, you don't have to be too smart. All you have to do is listen. And you actually finally figured out that the solution would be some membrane absorbers, okay, correctly located on a surface in your room. Let's just say a ceiling. And by the way, that is a real solution in a small room if you do have a modal problem. And that's going to squash some of the anomalous modes, standing wave modes, and I'm going to have a better low-frequency response. So let's just say you were smart enough to figure that out. You either knew it, you read about it, you got some help from a consultant. That'd be a good idea. And now the solution. Well, now comes the interesting part. It used to be that you'd have to put a lot of fuzzy stuff up, like traps.
Yeah.
Or you could try to build yourself some membrane absorbers or maybe some resonators, or you could go and buy them. Yeah. All the solutions will get you to exactly the same place. Okay? So if you want to make a membrane absorber, you can make it out of 1/8-inch plywood. 1/8-inch plywood is absolutely obtainable at Home Depot. You just have to know how thick and the nailing spacing and the distance between the plywood and the hard reflective surface behind it, and the density of the insulation to put in it. All of this not particularly difficult to look up, or somebody could give it to you in a sketch, and now all those materials are absolutely available at Home Depot. Or you can buy a prefabricated membrane absorber from one of about a half a dozen companies. It's better if I don't mention the companies. This way we're not
endorsing
sort of lining our line. But we all know who they are. Okay, which is the correct solution? They're both correct. They're absolutely both correct. One is DIY, okay, and that's fantastic. And the other is a specialty prefabricated acoustic material. They both get you to the same place. And we use both. Why do we use both? Sometimes we like the prefabricated ones because we're in an expensive union construction environment where it's just cheaper to buy it from somebody. Sometimes we're in a foreign country and we don't know if they're going to have the expertise to go build it, or they can't get the material easily. The other advantage of a prefabricated material is we know exactly how it's going to behave because it's tested, at least from the reputable manufacturers. But then sometimes, even in an environment where we don't have a union construction problem, we'll go use our own homemade materials because we want a certain look or a certain size or a certain color or a certain light behind it that we just have to, the only way to do it is to build it. So I guess what I'm trying to share with you is you can go down either road and get to exactly the same place, okay? A lot of times the difference is marketing, okay? There are 25 companies that make acoustic foam. It's all the same. And all you have to do is read the specs. It's all the same. It's all exactly the same. 50 companies make fabric-wrapped acoustical materials, all exactly the same. The only difference is the edge details and the hanging details. But the actual substrate behind them are exactly the same.
And the principles and mathematics behind it all are applied the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're pretty solid, and they're all the same. Absolutely.
So we've got about 2 minutes.
I like the DIY approach, and I think in instances where a studio owner has a lot of time, possibly has construction expertise, maybe he wants to trade studio time with a carpenter friend of his. I mean, we've seen this diagram a lot. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Buy a little expertise, get a little consulting, okay? so that you get in the right direction, and then absolutely build it yourself and have fun doing it. Nothing wrong with it.
And now, with that said, I want to kind of find out from you in projects. Could a company employ you just to kind of ask you questions as they kind of build it, do it themselves, or would you only be involved with a project when you are fully invested in it as a way of the design from start to finish?
Well, we generally tend to go with B because those get us to slightly more interesting places, but we absolutely do A. We take every phone call. Please do not call us because it looks like we're more interested in larger projects. I mean, the larger projects usually get the larger photos and covers of magazines, but we got actually some of the coolest projects we've had are small DIY instances where maybe we'll, be hired by the day to just give advice. We've had situations where someone said, could I just send you what I'm drawing and basically buy review consulting, or peer review is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll get on the phone for 15 minutes. It's an interesting person, and we'll just say fine. And we do that too, and I don't have a problem with that. A lot of times it'll come from students of mine because I teach people basically taking our course. Anybody taking a course on this is probably interested in owning his own studio. There'd be no reason to take this course unless why would you take a studio design course if you weren't interested in studios? So we get a lot of that as well. But don't not call.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, the beauty part, too, is that you've got offices, New York, Brazil, Switzerland, Argentina. So if you're in those countries, those are main offices. And then, of course, you've got, representation in Miami, Barcelona.
We're easy to reach. We got about 8 languages between everybody that's working for us. So
that's at WSDG.com.
But when we come back, I want to drill in on project studios. I think that's an interesting last segment. That's okay with you.
Oh, that's perfectly great. This has been awesome. This is the Changing Stage Radio Show with John Storyk and WSDG. Thanks to WS Radio, pitbullaudio.com, Stars Align, and SIR. We'll be right back in a few short minutes for the 4th segment.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children.
After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
You've heard me bragging about Progressive Medical Center and how they've helped me feel so much healthier. But one thing, Dr. Agoli, that a lot of people come to you with is just unexplained pain. They just can't get any relief. Why can Progressive Medical Center's Pain Management Center help them?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that pain is for real, and you've got acute pain and chronic pain. Here's the problem. That acute pain turns to chronic, which is long-standing, and no one's getting to the root cause. There's several key diagnostic components that help us get to the root of what's causing this pain. Is it inflammation? Once we do a thorough evaluation to get the root cause, determine if it's structural or if it's a metabolic issue. And this way, we put an individualized program for pain management involving correcting the spine, using certain injections when necessary, and we get our patients out of pain quicker, and they stay out of pain because we teach them how to live their life well.
Don't let yourself live in pain any longer. Get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today at progressivemedicalcenter.com.
Progressive Medical, this is your life, live it well.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at which.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICHWICH. Which.com.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
Welcome to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
This is the fourth segment of the Changing Stage radio show, powered by the mighty WS Radio Networks, the worldwide leader in Internet talk radio, and brought to you by SIR Music Equipment Rental, Pitbull Audio at pitbullaudio.com, Stars Align, and we are talking to the just incredible Mr. John Storyk, acoustical designer that is, definitely illuminating us with information. It's been one of the most informative shows we've ever done, and it affects all musicians because that's where we do our craft. So, John, we want to talk about Project Studios. Let's kind of dive right into your thoughts on Project Studios.
Well, okay. I guess what I really want to say is all projects are Project Studios. I kind of didn't realize this till about 10 years ago that we've only been making Project Studios, and this is not just a kind of a semantic trick with words. We just touched on it a little bit before. All these other kinds of terms that people use, world-class, state-of-the-art, commercial, mothership, satellite, destination studios, these are, as I said, much more associated with marketing genres and promotional genres. To me, a project studio is a studio that has soul and has a signature, and by definition, just about every studio does. I suppose there are some that don't. Radio stations used to not have them, okay, but even most radio stations have got soul. They've got spirit. They look good now. They all, many of them now involve tours. People want to go and visit the stations. They want to watch the stations in work, so we have a lot of glass, we have a lot of viewing, et cetera, et cetera. So all studios are really project studios. They have a signature of somebody, and I think it's important for us to remember that. I touched on it before. You're supposed to have fun in your studios. Yeah. So what does that mean? Let's drill down a little bit into that. What does that actually mean as we go start making them? Basically, the first question we'll ask anybody when they start talking to us about a studio is, do you really understand what you want to accomplish in the studio? Do you really have your programming really and truly organized? Most problems in most studios, the root of them are poor programming. They start off wanting to build a studio too big or bigger than they need. They start off with an equipment dream that really is unaffordable, but at the root of it, it's unaffordable because they just didn't think about what they really needed. They get hung up in the digital-analog dialogue. And I'm not saying that that's not an important dialogue, but sometimes it's not necessary to get hung up in it, et cetera. All of this falls in the category of programming. And not whether a studio is big or whether it's small or whether it's expensive or whether it's not expensive, whether it's in your home, whether it's not in your home. I find these conversations to be relatively uninteresting. We have to pay attention to them. Obviously, for instance, building codes are different in homes than they are in commercial venues. Okay? Air conditioning requirements might be different. Financing requirements might be different, et cetera, et cetera. But I really believe in the bottom of my heart that all studios have to have soul, and because of that, they are project studios. It took many years before I realized that the very first studio I did, which was Jimi Hendrix Electric Lady Studios, not Electric Lady Land Studios, but Electric Lady Studios.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry. The album was Electric Lady Land. Comes from a musician.
It happens about 10 times a week, I'm told. When people call, I've asked Lee, the manager, many times. He says it happens all the time. Was a project studio. I mean, think about it. It was Jimmy's project studio that he had enough foresight to build it to specifications that could be used commercially, which was really sort of more of a legal situation than anything else. But it was the penultimate project studio.
Yeah.
And most studios today are, in fact, not being built with the if they build it, they will come model. That's kind of a silly model. I mean, it can work sometimes. Most studios are being built by people who more or less have them full before they're done. In other words, they have a need for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Two producers are getting together and they're putting a project studio. They put a studio together, or someone opens a studio and it's for their own personal use. Hobbyists, semi-commercial uses. Studios. Every fourth church has a recording studio. Schools have recording studios. Advertising agencies, almost every single one has a recording studio. Now corporations are building their own recording studios because they're eliminating the advertising agencies. So they're everywhere. But all these studios share a common thread, which is that they're being built for a very specific purpose. Exchange the word purpose to project. Okay, and because of that, their programming can get very, very exact. They can figure out exactly how big it should be, or more importantly, exactly how big it shouldn't be. Okay? Exactly what equipment they need, or exactly what equipment they don't need. Don't let the equipment people drive you into bankruptcy. Just put in the equipment that's required to do the job. So these are very, very fun times. And then pay attention to acoustics. Everybody wants their rooms to sound good, and they should sound good, and there's no reason why they shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's very exciting times right now.
And I agree with that. And I think, as you mentioned, that these principles can be applied to, the smallest of rooms on up to, large facilities, as long as you're planning it out. And I think, I've made that mistake before, where I just launched a studio because I wanted to have a studio, and, not really thinking about it, just putting it up, and obviously they don't always last. This time around, it's definitely a different course. I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit about what kind of projects you guys are working on right now. We got about 2 minutes left. What can people see from WSDG here in the near future?
Well, we're very busy. Thank you for asking. Very fortunate. About half of our work is non-studios. So we did the systems design for 3 of the largest stadiums for FIFA World Cup in Brazil, and also for the Olympics. We're doing home theaters, corporate boardrooms. But in the recording studio world, we're staying very, very, very busy. Most of the work are individual studios for individuals, so they are classic project studios. Half are in residences, half are not. Some are for celebrities. We can mention a few. We did finish a studio for Owl City for Adam Young, and that was very, very exciting. Can't really say too much more about that. We have a few that we can't discuss because we're under NDA. Yeah. We have 2 major corporations, I just touched on this before, that are putting in their own recording studios in their corporate content centers, which I think 10 years ago just would have never happened.
Yeah,
these are people that would have gone out of house to commercial recording studios, and now they're just saying, we just want to have our own studio. Ease of recording. They're less expensive to do. So we're doing a few of those right now. We have some work in the Middle East, which is exciting. We just opened up a new rep in China and a new rep in Russia that's bringing us some work.
That is
we have
great.
2 new radio stations on the board, so these are very exciting times.
Definitely.
For us, the most exciting thing, in summary, though, is the exploding world of prefab materials. It continues to amaze me how many companies are exploring this market, and that's an interesting sign. Obviously, there'll be some threading out and some weeding out in that world, but it's making for some very nice opportunities for us, and I believe there's a nice trickle-down effect in the DIY market. These materials are just going to get less and less expensive, so that's exciting.
Awesome. Sir, it's never enough time. We might have to get you your own show someday, man. You always have a wealth of information. This has been The Changing Stage. Thank you, John Storyk. Thank you, all the sponsors.
Thank you very much.
And we'll hopefully have you back on again for some more topics on studio design. Pitbullaudio.com, Stars Align, and SIR. Thanks.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Progressive Medical.
Hey, this is Heidi Rue, and Progressive Medical Center has literally changed my life and my health, but I'm not the only one. Adele suffered from bone deterioration, bone overgrowth, profound muscle discomfort, physical exhaustion, and mental fog. In fact, the bone deterioration becomes so serious that she had to have back surgery. Well, after the surgery, she still didn't feel well, and so that's when she heard about Progressive Medical Center. Progressive Medical Center discovered that her adrenals weren't working properly, her hormones were out of whack, and the drugs she had been taking were doing more harm than good. Adele came into Progressive Medical Center in a walker, physically and mentally exhausted. But now she's a world traveler. She hikes and walks several miles a day, and it's all thanks to Progressive Medical Center. 770-676-6000. 770-676-6000.
Progressive Medical. This is your life. Live it well.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, VinVillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.